In this video, we're going to take a look back at the last 10 number 1 overall high school football recruits based on the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, starting with their early high school days to where their careers ended up today. I'd really appreciate if you consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now let's get into it. Starting off this list is the number 1 overall recruit from the 2014 class, Myles Garrett. Garrett attended Martin High School in Arlington, Texas, where he was a letterman in football, basketball, and track. In football, Garrett would have 19.5 sacks his senior year and would win the Landry Award, given to the top high school player in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Garrett was rated as a 5-star recruit and the number 1 overall player in the country. Following high school, Garrett would attend Texas A&M, where he'd see immediate success, breaking the freshman SEC sack record in just 9 games. From there, Garrett continued to dominate throughout his time with the Aggies, finishing his college career with 32.5 sacks, 38.5 tackles for loss, and 7 forced fumbles. Garrett would also earn 1 first-team All-American and 2 first-team All-SEC nods, as well as a second-team All-SEC honor. This put Garrett in line to be the top pick of the 2017 draft, where he would be taken number 1 overall by the Cleveland Browns. As many of you already know, Myles Garrett has gone on to have an excellent NFL career, where he has consistently been one of the best defensive players in the league. Since entering the NFL, he has 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, a Defensive Player of the Year award, and has already tallied 88.5 sacks and 17 forced fumbles. From high school to the pros, Garrett has been an absolute stud and has found success at every level he's played at. He's one of the few players who had hype around them from high school and college, who actually went on to live up to and even exceed that hype once entering the NFL. The next player on our list is the 2015 number 1 overall recruit, Trent Thompson. Thompson attended Westover High School in Albany, Georgia, where he would really make a name for himself in his junior and senior year. During those 2 seasons, Thompson would have 74 tackles for loss, 16 sacks, as well as being named the National Defensive Player of the Year by USA Today, and even drawing comparisons to Ndamukong Suh. Widely regarded as the best player in the country, he was being heavily recruited by the top college programs in the country. But Thompson would ultimately decide to stay close to home and commit to the Georgia Bulldogs. And although there was a lot of hype surrounding Thompson entering college, he would have very limited playing time his freshman year, only racking up 7 tackles and half a sack. Throughout his time with Georgia, Thompson would battle through injuries, which limited his overall production. So it was a surprise to many when he chose to forego his senior year and enter the 2018 NFL Draft. Unfortunately for Thompson, he would end up going undrafted that year. However, he would sign as a free agent with the Cleveland Browns that same year, but would eventually be waived before the preseason. Since then, Thompson has bounced around to a number of different lower-level leagues. In 2019, he would play for both the Arizona Hotshots of the AAF as well as the Washington Valor of the Arena Football League. From there, he would go back and forth between the CFL and XFL, playing for the Eskimos and Rough Riders of the CFL, as well as the XFL's Houston Roughnecks. The last thing I could find regarding his football career was a short stint in the Indoor Football League with the Vegas Nighthawks. He signed with the team in September of 2022, but was released the following year in August 2023. Next up, we have the 2016 number 1 overall recruit, Rashawn Gary. Gary would start his high school career at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School before transferring to Paramus High School in New Jersey for his junior and senior year. During his senior year, Gary would have 13.5 sacks, 29 tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles before being named the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year as well as a high school All-American. During the Under Armour All-America game, he would have 6 tackles and 3 sacks and go on to be named MVP of the game, further adding to his skyrocketing recruitment hype. In fact, Gary would become just the 3rd player ever to be unanimously voted as the best player in the country by all 4 major recruiting networks and was sought after by all the major college programs. Gary would ultimately decide to follow his former high school head coach to Michigan, where he committed to play for the Wolverines. While at Michigan, Gary would continue to impress, earning first-team All-Big Ten honors twice and finishing his college career with 119 total tackles, 23 tackles for loss, and 9.5 sacks. Gary would choose to forego his senior year at Michigan to enter the 2019 NFL Draft, where he'd be selected with the 12th overall pick by the Green Bay Packers. Since entering the league, Gary's had some ups and downs. After a slow start to his NFL career, we've started to see some major improvements over the last few seasons. In these last 3 years, he's had 24.5 sacks and has solidified himself as a key piece of this Green Bay defense. The Packers would pick up his 5th-year option in 2022 and eventually sign him to a long-term deal in 2023 for 4 years, $107 million. Moving on with our list, we have the 2017 number 1 overall recruit, Walker Little. Little attended Episcopal High School in Bel Air, Texas, where he played left tackle. Growing up in a football family, with his grandfather playing for the New York Giants and his brother being a 2-time All-American at Texas A&M, Little was poised to be the next great football talent in his family. In high school, Little would start at left tackle for the varsity team, starting his freshman year at just 14 years old. He continued to build up hype throughout his high school career, winning a state championship, as well as solidifying himself as the number 1 recruit in the nation. Little would ultimately decide to commit to the Stanford Cardinal. While at Stanford, he would be named the co-Pac-12 Freshman Offensive Player of the Year and would follow that up with all Pac-12 first-team honors the following season. Unfortunately, the rest of his college career was cut short due to a knee injury in 2019 and COVID opt-outs in 2020. However, even with the limited playing time in college, Walker would still be drafted in the second round of the 2021 NFL Draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Since entering the league, Little has served primarily as a backup tackle for the Jaguars, but has still managed to see some game time during his NFL tenure and is still currently on the Jacksonville roster. We continue this list with the 2018 number 1 recruit, Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence attended Cartersville High School in Georgia, where he quickly emerged as one of the highest rated high school prospects of all time. Lawrence would put up excellent numbers throughout high school and would be named the Atlanta Journal Player of the Year before ultimately deciding to commit to Clemson. While at Clemson, the hype around Lawrence continued to grow. In just his freshman season, he would lead the Tigers to an undefeated season and national championship win against Alabama. In his 3 years at Clemson, Lawrence would throw for over 10,000 yards and 90 touchdowns, while going 38-2 in his 40 college starts. This led NFL fan bases to beg their teams to tank for Trevor, as he was viewed as a generational talent. So it was no surprise when the Jaguars took him with the first overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. However, Lawrence would have a rocky start to his NFL career, having to play through the Urban Meyer debacle his rookie season. Luckily for him, the team would move on from Meyer, and we've now seen Lawrence develop into one of the top young QBs in the league, where he has continued to put up impressive numbers, as well as leading the Jaguars back to the postseason. Next up, we have the 2019 number 1 overall recruit, Nolan Smith. Smith attended Powerhouse High School, IMG Academy in Florida. During his last 2 years of high school, Smith tallied 88 tackles, 10.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception. This would be enough to make him a 5-star recruit and the number 1 overall prospect in the country, and was even ranked as the 20th best all-time recruit by 24/7 Sports, who were comparing him to Khalil Mack. Smith would end up committing to play for the Georgia Bulldogs, and although this was a stacked Georgia defense at the time, Smith would get the opportunity to play right away, playing in 11 games as a freshman and eventually becoming a core player in those loaded Bulldog teams that went on to win back-to-back national championships in 2021 and 2022. Smith Jr. would finish his college career with 110 total tackles, 12.5 sacks, and 20 tackles for loss, and would be drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles with the 30th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. In his first season in the league, Smith played in all 17 games for the Eagles and notched 18 total tackles and a sack. Similar to his situation in Georgia, he joined a team that is already loaded with talent, including a few of his former teammates like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Nakobe Dean, so he'll have to really work hard to establish himself on the defense and try to live up to those lofty Khalil Mack comparisons. Moving on, we have the 2020 number 1 overall recruit, Bryan Bresee. Bresee started his high school career at Frederick High School in Maryland before ultimately deciding to transfer to Damascus High School. After transferring, Bresee helped lead Damascus to 2 state championships in 2017 and 2019. Bresee would finish his high school career with 35 sacks, 82.5 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. This led to him becoming a 5-star recruit and the number 1 overall prospect in the nation. Bresee was being recruited by the likes of Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, but would ultimately decide on Clemson. Once in college, Bresee would hit the ground running, where he started every game as a freshman, recording 33 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. At the end of the season, he would be named the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year and an All-ACC first-team member. Although injuries would limit his playing time over the next 2 seasons, he would still manage to earn All-ACC honors in each of those seasons, and would finish his college career with 50 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks. Bresee would go on to be drafted by the New Orleans Saints with the 29th overall pick of the 2023 NFL Draft. In his lone NFL season, Bresee has looked impressive, playing in all 17 games for the Saints last year and recording 24 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 7 tackles for loss. Bresee looks like he'll be a core piece of the Saints defense for years to come. With the next player on the list, we have the 2021 number 1 recruit, Quinn Ewers. Ewers attended Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas, where he played both football and baseball. There was a ton of buzz around Ewers from a very early age, and even received a football scholarship in just the 6th grade. In high school, Ewers would put up some impressive numbers, throwing for over 6,400 yards with 73 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. His play in high school would be enough to make Ewers the number 1 ranked prospect in the country, and would go on to commit to Ohio State. Unfortunately for him, Ohio State was absolutely loaded at the time, and he would lose the starting role to CJ Stroud in the 2021 season, and would face competition from Kyle McCord and Jack Miller for the number 2 spot. With Ewers seeing limited playing time early on, along with the fact that Texas, the school he originally committed to, hired Steve Sarkisian, Ewers would make the decision to transfer and play for the Longhorns. Under Sark, we've seen major improvements in Ewers' game over the last 2 seasons, as he has helped lead Texas football back to the national stage. This was evident last season when we saw the Longhorns beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa and go on to play in the college football playoff. Ewers made the decision to return for the 2024 season and should only continue to improve. And with a not-so-loaded QB draft class this year, it's not unlikely that he could be a first-round pick in next year's draft. Next up, we have Travis Hunter, who was the number 1 overall recruit in 2022. Hunter attended Collins Hill High School in Georgia, where he played cornerback and wide receiver and would shine at both positions throughout high school. As a sophomore, he would lead the nation in interceptions with 7, while also recording 49 catches for over 900 yards and 12 touchdowns. The following season, he would be named MaxPrep's Georgia Player of the Year after recording 8 interceptions, as well as grabbing 137 catches for 1,746 yards and 24 touchdowns on offense. Hunter continued this impressive form as a senior, where he'd have 4 interceptions, along with 1,128 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. As a 5-star recruit and the number 1 overall prospect in the country, Hunter could have played wherever he wanted. However, after initially committing to FSU, he would flip his commitment to play for Deion Sanders at Jackson State. After an impressive freshman season with the Tigers, Hunter would once again follow Coach Prime to play for Colorado. During his time in college, Hunter has continued to impress on both sides of the ball and has played a critical role on this new-look Colorado team. In 2023, Hunter would be a consensus All-American while earning second-team All-Pac-12 honors and winning the Paul Hornung Award. Hunter looks primed for another strong season in 2024 and will most likely be a first-round pick in next year's draft. With the last spot on our list, we have the 2023 number 1 recruit, Arch Manning. As many of you already know, Arch Manning is the oldest son of Cooper Manning and the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning. With that type of football pedigree, it was clear Arch was destined to continue the family's football legacy. Manning grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, where he attended Isidore Newman High School. In his freshman year, Arch was already the varsity starting QB. Manning would go on to shine in his freshman campaign, throwing for 2,509 yards, 34 touchdowns, and would go on to earn MaxPrep's National Freshman of the Year honors. Manning's success would continue on throughout his time in high school. During his time at Newman, he would go 33-9 as a starter, throwing for 8,577 yards, 115 touchdowns to 19 interceptions, and secured the spot of the number 1 recruit in the nation. With his excellent play in high school, combined with his last name, the hype and media circus around Arch was wild. From the time he started high school, every major program and fanbase was hoping to sign him. Ultimately, Manning would decide on Texas and commit to play for Coach Sark and the Longhorns. With Quinn Ewers already on the roster, it looked like the plan was for Manning to be the backup his freshman year, before taking over as a sophomore. However, many were surprised when Ewers announced he was returning for the 2024 season, creating a lot of questions about who should be the starter moving forward. It will most likely be Ewers based on the success of last season, but there are many who are itching to see Manning lead this Longhorn offense. Regardless, both Texas and Arch Manning are set up for long-term success, and I'm sure once he gets his opportunity, Manning won't disappoint, as he appears to have all the tools you look for in a star quarterback, and has the players and coaches around him to help him succeed. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about any of these players and their careers down below in the comments. Also, please let me know if there's any team, player, or topic you'd like to see me cover. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.